onto the politics programme. Some of you have been watching these, I know, and we hope to eventually to have all the local politicians in, and also some of the TDs that have represented both East and West Limerick, anyway. But to get on to tonight's programme, and with me I have Conor Sheehan. Conor, first of all, you're welcome along to the programme.
Thanks very much, Tony, and thanks very much for having me. I'm just going to change my name from Labour Party on the screen just to my own name. But I'm absolutely delighted to be able to join you here this evening.
Anyway, Conor, first of all, we've never met, really, officially, as they say. But you're a member of the Labour Party. What got you involved in the Labour Party, and why the Labour Party?
Well, I suppose it's a funny old story that I actually got involved with the Labour Party coming up to the 2016 election, which, you know, might beg some people to ask, why in the name of God did you get involved with the Labour Party? First of all, after a rocky period in government, and second of all, just before an election, a very bruising election for us. But I suppose I got involved in the Labour Party because I felt that my values would have aligned with the values of the Labour Party, and they are the values, pardon me, sorry, I just had to sneeze there, but basically they would be the values of democratic socialism, pardon me, or social democracy. And I always was a keen admirer of our former TD, Jan O'Sullivan. And I admired Jan's work in particular when she was Minister for Education in delivering a number of schools in Limerick. And that's why I would have gotten involved originally, because I felt in 2016 that Jan was at risk of losing her seat at the time. And I felt that I always admired and valued the work that she did, and I wanted her to be re-elected. So I basically just decided to put my own shoulder to the wheel and get involved in her campaign. And I didn't actually join the party until some months later. So I suppose my own politics would be grounded, as I said, in the values of social democracy and democratic socialism.
But would you not think that, it's in my opinion now, has the Labour Party changed its values over the years? I often wonder, you know, have been involved in it at higher level now. You know, people like Eamon Gilmore and a few others like that. That I tell you, Jim Kemmy wouldn't have whelmed some of those politicians now. I don't think he would.
Well, I think probably what happened, Tony, was that, you know, the Labour Party went into government with Fine Gael in 2011. First of all, at a time when the country was in the middle of an IMF bailout program. And the big problem with that is that when you're a centre-left political party or a left-wing political party, you know, the whole concept of austerity is completely alien to you and goes completely against your values and belief system. But when you're in the middle of an IMF bailout program, it's like a straitjacket. Like, you actually can't, there is very little that you can do, because, you know, they have all of these stringent controls in place in order for you to be able to borrow. So I think that, and I think that the biggest issue as well was that the Labour Party, the 2011 to 2016 government, in my view, wasn't a good government, because the government had too big of a majority at the start, right? And when a government has a big majority like that, a government can become quite arrogant. And when you have a government that has that big a majority, they think that they can power ahead and do things because they know that they have such a majority. It had the biggest majority in the state. And the government also wasn't a very balanced government in the sense that Fine Gael had 76 or 77 seats and the Labour Party had 37. So when you've that level of imbalance in a government, it means that one party is going to dominate and the ideology of one party is going to dominate, which is Fine Gael. And I think if you look at the arrangement they have now, whereby you have two parties and the Greens, as in you have Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, neither one of them, now I know they're very similar, but if you look at the makeup of it in the sense that one is 34 seats and the other has 37 seats, like I think that makes for much more balanced government, because my biggest issue with the Labour Party going into government again, if we were ever lucky enough to get a decent level of support, is I would not like to go into government with a party that had 60 or 70 seats and then for a smaller party to have 15 or 20 or less than that, because like it's very hard when you're dealing with such a large party like Fine Gael to get your agenda through and to get your way on things. And the Labour Party conceded to things and did some things that it should not have done, that were really, really, really poor and inexcusable things. You know, the issue that happened around the review of of medical cards, that is something that in my view is indefensible. I could not stand over that. The whole thing with water was just botched completely. It was really, really badly handled. And those would be the two biggest ones. And there were things that were cut as well. You know.
Yeah, but how does that? First of all, I should have asked you what ward are you in here in the city?
I'm in Limerick City North, so I'm the north side of the city. So I go from Corbally the whole way out to Coona.
Oh yeah. Well, I should ask you now, what about the state of the city? The state of first of all, the traffic is horrendous. What's going to be done about it? Nothing, as far as I'm concerned. Who has control over everything that's been done? I mean, there were some dreadful things done in the city. Who decided, and is the traffic being stopped going into the city centre, or is it going to be left go through? At the moment, you can't even get up Patrick Street. It's unreal.
Well, at the moment, the O'Connell Street sort of look, we know the city centre is in bad nick. It's fairly shabby. And the O'Connell Street revitalisation, that's the official name for it. That's not what I'm calling it. That's being done at the moment, because O'Connell Street, like for the main street of our city, the third biggest city in the country, like, do you know, at one stage, like Tony, you had tarmac on footpaths, like, and we don't decide those things, and we don't have the power to.
You're the council. Who's making these decisions? Who?
But you see, the fact of the matter is, because of the way local government is structured and because of the way successive reforms, it's the council executive that make these decisions. So these decisions are by and large made by unelected people. They're not made by us, because I'm telling you, like, if you see something like that you are annoyed about, say for example, the tarmac around the city centre on the footpaths, like chances are I'm exactly as annoyed as you are. And chances are I probably found out 4.5 seconds before you did, because there are things like, there's so many things in relation to local government and the council that are out of our control, because every time a minister goes to look at the reform of local government, it involves taking more power away from councillors. I mean, there's a thing at the moment that Owen Murphy introduced when he was housing minister. They're called strategic housing developments. So when a housing development has more than 100 units, the developer can apply directly to Onboard Planola. It doesn't have to go to the council. And like, that's a massive development in an area. So you're based up around the South Circular Road, am I right? So they're planning like on putting one of these massive developments into Green Park Racecourse, you know? No consultation with the residents, no consultation with the local councillors who were elected to represent the residents' views. So there's so much when it comes to local government that like, it just goes over our heads like that. It's ridiculous.
I understand that. Why don't the councillors kind of, I suppose really it's easy for me to say this, but as far as I'm concerned, there should be a strike with the councillors. The CEO of the council, of the city council, right? The CEO, who appointed him?
Well, the CEO was appointed after Con Murray retired. I understand that he went for an interview and there's an interview process. But he was originally...
Who was the interview with?
I presume the interview was with whoever interviews for all the senior management positions at local authority. So there's a board, there's a panel set up. So there'd be senior people from other local authorities would come in. So there'd be 4 or 5 people on the interview panel.
But he was never involved with the corporation. The CEO is there now. He worked in Shannon Development.
Yeah, but he came into the council then because he became a director of service.
How? Who appointed him to that?
Well, he went for an interview and he was selected off the basis of that interview. That's not something I really know anything about, to be honest with you.
Councillors, you should know this, and other councillors said the same to me. And I still maintain the councillors have no power, none. You're elected, you're talking to people who really basically don't care about the city, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we have, I wouldn't go as far as saying we've no power, but we have limited powers. There are certain things that we have power over. For example, the city manager can't sell land unless we vote on it. We have, what?
Oh, there wasn't a land sold above the park. Who sanctioned that above the city park?
Which land?
Land belonged to the Limerick and the People's Park. There were houses encroached onto that, and there was no more about it.
That would have gone through the council. That would have gone through the council as either if it was an application for housing, it would have gone in as what's known as a Part 8, or if it was a disposal of land, it would have gone in as Section 183, and the councillors at the time would have voted on it.
I didn't know that now. I was asking other councillors now, did they vote on that? I didn't know that, because I remember at the time I was giving out about it, how they could encroach on land that was given by the Limerick on a what you call it, a deal. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. But like they still encroached on it.
Which land was this?
On the People's Park, above on the Edward Street side. If you're going up.
But the Edward Street site, like that land was already owned by the council, but the councillors would have approved that housing development, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move it up. But there's other parts of town. I mean, who's the Brainbox that decided to put a car park in the middle of the green in front of the station? A car park. Well, I remember about 20 shops there on that ground. Why not?
Well, that would have been done as part of what they did to Wickham Street in terms of upgrading it with the cycle lanes and stuff like that. It was done at the same time.
You couldn't have fooled me. Upgrading it, you were bicycle thing down. Oh God, Wickham Street. You're one lane of traffic. If you're going down to the market down High Street, you have to stay in the lane. If you're going on to Upper William Street, you have to stay in the lane. It is crazy. If you're coming up Thomas Street, you can't get out into that lane. Nobody will leave you off. And you have a bicycle lane. It's not even used.
Yeah, but there'll be bicycle lanes everywhere. We give it 2 or 3 years because that's the way things are going with active travel.
I hope it stays fine for you, because another Brainbox has decided to put one above on the Children's Road between Crupps and the roundabout there, and the roundabout at South Hill, and the roundabout and the Brough for the Kilmallock roundabout. Now they're a line of thing on that now, but a cycle lane, 2 cycle lanes, not one at all, 2. What are the busiest things? Oh God, who are the people that make these decisions?
Well, they're trying to get people out of cars and onto bicycles and out walking and cycling.
You go down the cycle lane and they finish, and then you have to go up onto a footpath again.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they're not going anywhere. I remember a councillor years ago decided that there'd be a bus lane coming in Ballinacurra.
Yeah.
And next thing they put these Coca-Cola bikes. The whole thing is oh God. Who are the brain boxes? I'd love to know. Obviously, but I know what the problem is. These people aren't using the road. They're not using the places they're designing. And well, I know it. I know people have made decisions. You could make a decision for the north side. You might never see Western and Prospect on the other side. Whereas I do. I'm always around.
Well, in fairness, I do. I drive up Hyde Road an awful lot. And I've friends in around Janesborough and Carey's Road, so I'm familiar with the south side of the city as well, I have to say.
Yeah, no, I'm just arguing. I'm not saying that, no. What I'm saying is that people make decisions that from an area and they don't even know the other side. And they're making the decisions. There's no consultation with people. I know that some people aren't interested. I've went to various meetings now around concerning with planning, but like that, you will be flogging a dead horse. The decisions are still made. The city is in a dreadful state. The city centre, and it's frightening to see what's happening. And these bicycles, I don't know, God, I get so annoyed. I mean, it's impossible to get in and out of town with the traffic that's there, and it's not being moved. You'll never meet a guard in the street trying to sort it out. Never. Just doesn't happen. When you see a guard could sort it out in 10 minutes, but they're just not there. You will not get a guard in the street in Limerick between 5 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night. Tell me if you do. Come back to me. Tell me if you do. You get a guard in the street between 5 o'clock and 10 o'clock. You never see a guard around that time of the night. How they're having more robberies that time of the day in the city centre, I never know. I mean, the whole city is falling apart. And it could be sorted out if the will was there to do it. But I'm afraid it's not there.
But we're getting there. We are getting there. The city is better than it was. You know?
It's not. The shops are closed. The shops aren't there. There was land sold above Childers Road for the big site that Duns have there. That's bringing people out of the city. People
I agree with you.
The streets.
Terrible idea.
I wouldn't even walk down at night. I'd be afraid to walk down Wickham Street or Palmel Street at night. It's frightening. And how many councillors have walked down of the whole, even the rest of the 39 of them, how many of them have walked down at night down Thomas Street or down William Street? They're not doing it. I know they're not. There was one bicycle on that roadway today in Childers Road. I looked around me, not one bicycle on it, 2 bicycle lanes. Now,
well, I have to say, I was up there last Sunday and I saw a few using it because I often go running that way. You know, I'd run from my house up as far as the People's Park, up through Janesborough and back down Childers Road. And I did see a few people, but look, I take your point, but at the same time, we need to put infrastructure there to try and get people out of cars. We have to, we've no choice.
I don't know. I don't think it'll happen. I really don't. I'd like to think you're right and to get the traffic off. But I don't want to cycle. I'm not interested. I'd walk. I can walk to town from my house. But I'm basically not interested in getting on a bicycle. Anyway, I never where would you leave a bicycle? It'll be knocked off. Where do you leave a bike? Coca-Cola bikes, to me, I don't know.
Well, if you have a good enough lock, the bike won't be knocked off.
Second clientele you only see, I know, using the Coca-Cola bikes. I mean, they're all over the place, all over the city. You see, some of them have never moved. They're above the Conor Avenue and they're like changing the seats on the Titanic. They're fixing them and they're putting them back and fixing them again. And it's I don't know. These Coca-Cola, whoever the Brainbox again, well, Coca-Cola have the money to do it. But whoever decided, I mean, they're everywhere, the Coca-Cola bikes. How many people have you seen using them? I saw a few students, that's all over Mary Immaculate. That's all. Nobody uses those Coca-Cola bikes. I don't know.
Well, I think there's a couple of issues there with them. They're a bit unreliable. I don't use them myself, but I have my own bicycle, so.
Mm-hmm. But why isn't there something to know about that now? If you say that there's issues with them, right? If I was the city manager, which I have some hope, I'd want that done now, tomorrow. You know, get it done. Why isn't it being?
But it's not actually. it's Transport Infrastructure Ireland that are responsible for them, and TFI, it's not actually the council. So because we've highlighted the issues with them, because some of the docking stations are closed. The one on Mount St. Alphonsus Street is closed. It's been closed for the last 2 years nearly. And
yes, but what are you talking about?
The docking station for the Coca-Cola bikes.
What's the docking station? What do you mean? When you put them in?
Yeah, there's one of them.
Alphonsus Street. There's none
There's
Alphonsus Church, but there's none of them down Alphonsus Street.
There's one.
You couldn't put bicycles down there.
No, there's one. It's not on Alphonsus Street, but it's it's before Alphonsus Street.
Yeah, outside the church, outside the father's church, there's one, and I've never seen anybody taking a bike off there.
Well, it's that one is closed. It's not working. It hasn't been for a while.
That wouldn't surprise me, But anyway, but like that, the whole city, there's so much could be done if the will was there to do it. What's your view on the elected mayor?
Well, I voted in favour of it, the directly elected mayor, because I think, first of all, that many of the issues that we have in the city, there's a democratic deficit there, basically. The chief executive and the council executive, who are unelected, they have far too much power, and we need to rebalance that power. And at least with the mayor, after 5 years, if you're really annoyed, at least you can vote the mayor out. You can't vote the city manager out, and that's my attitude. But the mayor must have meaningful powers. There is no point, having a very expensive taxpayer funded ribbon cutter, like that. I'm totally against. I'm in favor of the mayor, provided the mayor has meaningful powers in areas such as things like housing, transport, placemaking, so that the mayor is able to drive an agenda and get things done. I am not in favor of the mayor just being sort of a well-paid, chauffeur-driven lobbyist. That's not what I'm in favor of at all.
But you need somebody, kind of a figurehead as mayor, that somebody obviously that would know the city. I wouldn't like to see. I would hope whoever's going to go for it has no political connections. I think that would be wrong.
But you see, I suppose what you mean by political connections.
I'm a member of a party. I'm associate to a party. There are people in Limerick I know got jobs because I went around handing out leaflets for people. I could name them. Some of them were made, which is a stupid title, Peace Commissioner. Or it was really was signing summonses, and getting these jobs for proselytizing for various political parties. And they got handy jobs, a lot of them did. I'm older than you, and I can go back to the 60s when I remember this was happening. And it was disgraceful. Every fella that got a handy job was connected to a political party. Every one of them. I didn't know anybody that was appointed anything because he was an independent. I know so many people that got handy jobs. I admit I was chipping my shoulder about it because it's a pity I didn't get a handy job, But anyway, I never went out proselytizing for anybody, going around knocking on doors. And I think that's wrong. I got an email today from a councillor whom I won't name, and it showed you he's getting a road fixed. You think he was going to go over with a shovel and do it himself? I mean, what? That to me is parish pump politics. Going around and pointing to something like a pole that's in the way. I mean, that's terrible. Going around doing this kind of rubbish. I'm getting this done, and I'm getting a new gate put on the new school. I mean, I can't see the point in that.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, first of all, being the mayor is a political role. So, of course, you're going to have people who are politically affiliated running for it. I mean, that's the nature of politics. And I mean, I suppose I would say to anybody, I would challenge them to put their name on a ballot paper, because you really are putting yourself out there, And look, I can see where you're coming from in terms of parish pump politics, but a lot of that is because that's the way the political system in this country is designed. Like you have to do unfortunately, like, I mean, we have a situation whereby our political system is designed in such a way that, like, a lot of our TDs act like councillors on steroids, you know? I mean, being a TD means your job, first and foremost, is as a legislator, a national legislator, to deal with national issues, not to deal with speed ramps and potholes and, you know, broken doors. And that's actually the duties of a councillor. And we have many TDs running around the place like chickens, acting like councillors. And that's because of the political system. Because the thing about it is, like, elections, because of the PR STV system, like, elections in this country can be decided. Like in 2002, I always give the example of Dan Neville, the former Fine Gael TD, who held his seat by a vote. A vote. You know?
It happened to Dick Spring, I remember as well.
It happened to Dick Spring by something like maybe 3 or 4 votes.
Yeah.
1987.
Yeah, I remember it well, I do.
And the person he beat was Norma Foley's father, Dennis Foley.
I remember it. I was letting you say it first now. Anyway, that is true, but the system is kind of crazy. Come here, what about housing in the city? They're building houses now. Well, first of all, they're building houses above in the Burger Street, I see, right?
Yeah.
Who gets these houses? You know, I can't understand how people can get houses because they know a councillor. I know a guy that got a bungalow in Kelly's Road, and I said it to him, I said, how did you get that now? He said, I put a word in with one of the councillors and somebody in the council. And that is totally wrong. That people can get people houses like that. Surely there should be some criteria for it. They're building houses above in Mulder Street, I know at the moment. They're building houses above what to me was Goff's Quarry. Inside in the quarry, they're building them above, and well, people like to call it Rossbrine. It's not, it's Weston. But anyway, they'll probably give their addresses as Rossbrine anyway. But Rossbrine is 2 miles out the road. But anyway, but they're building houses there. Where else did I see them building houses? A few other places. Who's going to get these houses? And
well, first of all, Tony, there are thousands of people on the housing list, right? Tens of thousands of people. There's over 10,000 in Limerick alone. The other thing is, right, I always sort of take these stories when people come along and say, so-and-so got me the house with more than a dose of salt, because I'll tell you this, right? And I've been around the block now with this, like, a councillor can make representations on behalf of somebody. So if you're on the housing list, I can argue your case, right? And I can argue your case hard, but that's really about all I can do. I don't allocate the houses. I mean, Jesus, I wish I did, because if I did allocate the houses, I'd allocate them to get all the people that are on my books off my books, you know, as in the people who are coming to me. But it's not like, that's not the way this thing works. Like, the council officials allocate houses and they don't tell us how they allocate them. Now, part of it is, like, obviously you're assessed on need, but obviously demand always wildly exceeds supply. So there is a lottery element of it, and there's an element of luck as well, you know. And like, some people as well, they might say, oh, so-and-so got me the house. But like, to be honest with you, Tony, more often than not, that's somebody, in my experience, who is basically sort of letting on that they had more of a more central role in the allocation than they actually did, if you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
you know?
I'd agree with that. But still, I can't understand. There was a housing officer, I believe she's gone, who was there in the council. She's gone, and there's somebody else is taking her place now. Am I right in that?
Well, there's loads of housing officers. Like, there's about, between assessments and allocations, there's about 12 people easily, if not more, that I don't know of. Like, you know.
Why would they need 12 people?
Because they've over 10,000 people looking for houses. They've over 10.
How would you take 12 people to decide, like?
Well, for example, like, some people work in assessments, some people work in allocations. They have like, you know, you've vacant houses coming back, you've new housing developments, you've people who pass away, or like, you know, like whatever number of staff they have in there, you know, they are like, they have an awful volume of work inside in housing, you know, in the council, a really, really high volume of work. Like there's people trying to get on the housing list morning, noon and night, you know.
Tell me this, well, you could be right in that, you know, I still maintain there's a lot of them there. Are they that busy? I query that myself now, I would, you know.
Well, I would say there might be an element of truth to that in some areas, but in my experience, not so in housing.
Yeah, because housing is a dreadful thing. I mean, still there's people I know that I get myself into trouble. Now, I know people, so many that got houses out there, and I'm just curious, and I'd say, how did she or he get that house now? You'd be wondering, you know, do you have to have 16 children, or do you have to, and should people be working to get houses? You know, there's people that get houses, they've never done a day's work in their life, you know, and I know who they are. I know people in Limerick like that. Unfortunately, what can you do? I mean, as I said to you, I hate to admit I'm going around longer than you, and you get to know so many people in the city, and the whole thing is crazy. Do you think, first of all, how many Labour councillors are there now? Are there three or four?
Three.
Do you think Labour will ever be back in power again? In the city, even the city for starters.
Well, the first thing I'd say is, like, will we be ever, like, first of all, that's a bit of a loaded question. Second of all, you don't know, because it depends on the outcome of the local elections. And obviously, since we amalgamated with city and county and we have the combined authority, like Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have got more or less stranglehold over politics in Limerick City and County. And not only do Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have a stranglehold, but it's Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael plus the independents who always vote with them. And the independents are by and large, you know, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael without they're almost like they've been debranded. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like when you rip the label off something, you can still see the shadow of where it used to be, you know. And between them, like, they basically they have the control group. Now, politics has become more fragmented in recent years, and even since the last locals, it's become more fragmented. So a lot of it will depend on the next local elections to see can enough other parties come through, like, to stop. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael at the moment have about 27 council seats out of 40. Maybe slightly less, maybe 24 or 5, because they've had, you see, the funny thing is, you've had one or two that have left Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to become independents. But they will still vote with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael.
That is true, because I had Eddie Ryan, from Galway here now the night, and I said at him, why does he still vote for them? Do you still vote for them? And like that, I can't understand how, Eddie maintains he's not kind of gone for Fianna Fáil altogether. You know, that's what he said.
But you see, I think Eddie's reason for not leaving Fianna Fáil wasn't an ideological thing. It was a personal, it was a falling out.
I know,
So Eddie, like, Eddie, first of all, I actually have very good time for Eddie. He's a very good and conscientious councillor. But I think if you talk to Eddie, it's almost like when you're talking to him that, like, he sort of feels that Fianna Fáil have left him as opposed to...
They did let him down, really.
Yeah, they did.
No, I do, you know, and he was let down, you know, and it's a pity really when things like that happen. But still, people will vote with the party, which I don't know, and I discussed that with him. Why have we these? I know you have to have them, these whips, that people haven't a free vote, really.
Yeah.
You know, and
but you see, I think part of it with Eddie as well is that Eddie was probably in Fianna Fáil for, you know, a long time. And I think it's very hard when you've been in a party that long. And I mean, you see, part of it as well is that like, in order for change to happen, the stranglehold that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have over the council needs to be broken. And in order for that to happen, parties like ourselves need to basically win more seats. Like, do I think Labour will be in power nationally again at some stage? I do. When? You don't know. I mean, like, I think there are no certainties in politics anymore, because if you look at the way, you know, Sinn Féin rose from the ashes almost like a phoenix after the last general election, after they had a shellacking of a local election. Can you look at how quick things can change even within 6 months? And I think what will be interesting will be to see if they go into government, what happens then? You know, will they be able to maintain their level of support? Because I think the old loyalties that were there are gone. I mean, years ago, the Dáil, you know, was almost nearly made up of 80 Fianna Fáil TDs, maybe 60 Fine Gael TDs, 20 or 15 Labour TDs, and a couple of independents. And now the whole thing has become so fragmented that I just think there are no certainties anymore in politics. Like, I mean, things are gone so fluid now that, you know, I don't know, for example, could we be here in 10 years' time? And could the Labour Party have, you know, a similar number of seats that it has now, or much more seats than it has now? I think anything is literally possible, because if you had told, you know, if somebody had told you 15 years ago that Fianna Fáil, you know, would only have 36 TDs, you would have probably looked at them like, you know.
I agree with you there, but times it takes a long time for things to change, because it's still what I'm waiting for is when there's a new general election, and if Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are split up, it'll be good. The accusations they're going to make against one another, it'll be funny. It'll be well.
But I was watching Fianna Fáil, you know. You know what Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael remind me of now? Remember years ago when Ian Paisley first went into power sharing with Sinn Féin in the north, and they used to call Paisley and McGuinness Chuckle Brothers. I see that with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, you know. I've seen it on the council for years. Like, so it's like this whole thing of some people were almost shocked that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael went into government together. But I've seen the two of them on the council, like yin and yang, you know.
I know. No? I saw something I was telling the line. I was at the first council meeting of the new council, and I saw all the little goodies being given out for appointments to various boards. And I saw one council going across to another councillor of a different party, and they basically divided them between them. And I thought that was disgusting, that they could take the top jobs for themselves, and they were shouting out names that he'll take this and he'll take that, and nobody wanted the ones that were lesser known, like who's going to be on the board of the City Museum. Nobody wanted that. They wanted handy ones with handy money and good expenses and that. And that is disgusting. Why have councillors to be on all these boards? Are you on any board, by the way?
Am I on any board? I'm a trustee of the milk market, but I don't get any money or anything for that.
What does that mean?
It basically means that the milk market, it's the governing authority of the milk market. So
I can follow that, because that's still run by the council, isn't it?
No, the milk market was never run directly by the council.
I know these trustees. I know a lot of them gone back and how they got the jobs. I know well. They were the all Fianna Fáil when I was a young fella, and on these boards. But like that, that means nothing. Why are you bothering with this? Like,
I don't get any money for it. Well, I enjoy it because I like being able to give something back to the market. Like, I think the market is one of the jewels in the crown of Limerick. I think it's
Only a
fantastic.
glorified eating house is what is down there now.
Yeah, but like that is the nature of these things, and it's a big tourist attraction, you know. And I think it's something we should be really proud of. I'm very proud of the market. I think
Well,
it's
I know
fantastic.
there are more Saturdays now, and I know that I've spoken, I know a lot of the dealers I do, they all know me, people selling things. And there's some of them out in the street that can't afford to go inside. I mean, that's wrong.
Well, they're not, if you're outside, you're not actually in the market. You're in what's known as the casual trading area.
Yeah. But surely that's wrong. I spoke to one person now. I said, why are you out here? And they said to me, well, I couldn't stay inside. It's too expensive. Surely that's wrong. If some people are to stay outside, they can't go in.
Well, there's an element of basically, you know, there's people inside and outside the market, and some people are inside and some people are outside. But I think as well, like traders need to be able to, like, we've no control as a market over the casual trading area. So the casual trading area is just the council. But what's inside the market, when people pay towards the market, then that means that that money that they pay goes towards the running of the market, you know? And like the market, I think it's fantastic the way it's been redeveloped in the last 15 years, like with the roof and all the cafes and eateries inside. I think it's
glorified eating house. When I was a child, I remember going down there every Saturday with my aunt, and there were at least 20 people there who came in and sold goods that they did themselves, proper household goods. But now that they're selling down there all pieces of pizza, which I hate, and all these other stupid old foods that I wouldn't eat anyway.
Yeah, but like that's what all of these markets are nowadays. The same with the English market in Cork. Like the English market, it's for food. Like it's not a commercial market, you know.
That's different there because St. George's Market now in Belfast, which I've been to, is a fine market. It has everything in it. People selling even stamps for stamp collectors, up to little model cars. You have food. You have so many different varieties. You could spend hours in St. George's Market, which is well worth going to see, but not the one below. This is all glorified eating. This fellas is selling that and they're selling. Anyway, that's just me. I just find, I remember as a child, there were people called, well, people know who they are, Palatines, who came in from Madeira, Rathkeil, selling flowers and goods like that. But now that seems to be all gone, which is unfortunate. The only ones selling fruit and vegetables now, and first off, his daughter is there. There's a guy, McNamara, she's there, Breda McNamara. She's still there selling the fruit. They're about the only originals that are there.
Yeah.
She's outside the gates, but the rest of them, unfortunately, have all gone. You know, I wonder why.
Yeah, I suppose there's an element of it as well that times are sort of changing a bit, you know, and that, like, I mean, we've people, I mean, in fairness, like your man now, the French guy who does the cheese, he's in there well over 20 years at this stage, like, you know.
Selling French cheese.
Selling all the cheese, you know, he's French. I
wouldn't need French cheese, no. The best cheese in the world is Irish. That we produce the best cheese in the world. Nobody tell you anything different. I wouldn't eat any foreign cheeses now, I'm afraid. I'm afraid I'd back down. I wouldn't even need to eat them or those other ones. Nah, I'd stick to plain Irish cheese. Good cheddar cheese. I know it's cheddars in England, but we have produced the finest cheese in the world in this country. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Anyway, we're coming to the end now, Conor, and in a few minutes. Just ask you, what else? What annoys me? What is going to be doing parking, for example? There seems to be a terrible lax. Today now, for example, I was watching in Henry Street, right? Now, just a coincidence. I saw a car illegally parked. It was causing an obstruction, right? And two traffic wardens passing it out. I saw both of them passing it out. I could identify them. And when I saw the car, I mean, parking is unreal. You're afraid, and there is the certain places if you park, you'll get a ticket. Look at the South Circular Road during school times. You can't even get down. And they're there now from 2 o'clock for children coming out at 3 o'clock to get their parking space. O'Connell Avenue, you never see a traffic warden around there. I wish they'd send it out to tender it and I'd take it over. I'd make a fortune for both the corporation and for myself if they gave it to me. I'd employ the people giving out the tickets and I'd tell them where to go. I mean, just the South Circular Road, which I'm very familiar with, and also down Henry Street, the parking is unreal, you know, and it seems to me nothing to be noted.
But you see, I think there's a culture there as well in this country that people would park inside in the bed beside you if they thought they could, you know, mount the curb and up they go.
But that should be stopped. But the traffic, to drive down Henry Street with even 2 lanes, you're jumping into a different lane. Who designed this traffic layout? Go down Henry Street, one fella drives over, he thinks he's a right to get over into your lane. And you go down by the Savoy and you're blank, you can't even go on straight. There's parking down that street. Oh God, the whole thing, people jumping lanes. You know, I often say, if I was a taxi driver, I'd either get my mouth broke or I'd crack up, one or the other, because I wouldn't have much time for taxi drivers now, but I still can't understand how they can put up with the conditions driving around. And who was the Brainbox that decided to take away the railings in the railway station and put in this big open area, which is great for the wine drinkers, fabulous it's for them. They have great fun there. They can relax at their ease. The taxis are over on the other side.
But I think the biggest problem that happened outside the train station was that when they put in the cycle lanes, they should have put them in behind the car parking spaces.
Look, you could be talking to me all day now about parking and what I see, and especially if you're walking. I walk a fair bit around the city. I know nearly every shop in the city. I could tell you all about them because I have a great love for the city. But like that, it's really been destroyed from when I was a child. I see so many changes there. And unfortunately, we've had mayors over the years that people don't even know who they were. They're gone. They're not here anymore. I could name out about 6 of them now, this minute. They're gone out of the city. How they got in, I don't want to get into political pool again, how they got in. I mean, the whole thing is great. I've told people, do you remember such a fella? They say, who? He was a mayor, or she was a mayor. They said, never heard of them. They're gone. They're not even here. There should be criteria set down for this mayor that's going to be elected. He needs to be from the city, at least anyway, this person.
Well, I think the mayor should be from the city as well, but that's democracy as well, you know. People need to vote for whoever they want, they'll have to vote for, you know.
Even I wouldn't allow, I told this anyone, I wouldn't allow somebody that's not from the city to be buried in our graveyards. They should be sent back to where they came from.
I don't think you could do that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they're taking up spaces out there, and we're going to run out of more space now for burial grounds. You know, if a fella's in Dublin, he dies in Limerick.
You'll have to be cremated.
I think that, well, bring that rule in, that if you're not from the city, you have to be cremated, that there's not going to be room for you. They should be told that, you know, earlier on in the year, because the city is being clogged up all the time. There was a time when I knew everybody buried in the graveyard. I get many talks about mountain towns, but like that, there's people who are buried now, and I know who they are. You know, it's a pity. There was a time in Limerick when I knew everybody, who they were and where they came from, but I'm kind of losing my touch over the years now, you know. Anyway, it's time to finish up, Conor. Can I just say to you that I hope you're successful. When will the next local elections be on?
2024, which is sooner than you think, really, you know. We're halfway there now, 2.5 years.
Yeah, we'll see. What about this 2030, which I think is a load of rubbish?
Which?
What's this 2030 thing they're all?
Well, Limerick 2030 it's what's known as a special purpose vehicle of the council. So it's basically a property developer that the council have set up, property development company.
Yeah.
To redevelop the city centre.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see. We'll hear shit. And there's probably a committee for that then as well, is there?
There is, yeah.
And who's on these committees? I saw something on the paper who's involved in that. Don't know him, never heard of him. Where do they find these people? I'd love to know.
In the dark echelons of local government.
I would think so. I know so. And I love finding out how people got jobs. And I'd say, oh God, You mean he's his brother-in-law or he's his sister-in-law or he stood with him getting married or something, you know? And it's just depressing to us, you know. If you know any council out there that's getting married, tell me and I'll stand with him if he'll give me a job, you know. I want
Well,
a job.
councillors don't have any feckin' jobs to give, unfortunately.
Just in case there's anyone out there, you know.
Let's get on to TD.
Oh yeah, TD, oh yeah, lovely. We'll see. Anyway,
Thanks, Tony.
thank you for coming on anyway. And at least
Cheers.
I found out who you were anyway. And we never mentioned Jan Sullivan. It's a pity Jan lost her seas, you know.
Yeah, look, she was Jan is happy to be retired at this stage.
I think so. I met her once now afterwards, you know. Yeah. I think so. But still, it's terrible when you you could kind of retire before you run, you know.
Yeah.
And put out, rather than losing a seat, has kind of certain connotations with it, you know. People say he lost his seat or she lost her seat, you know. But
yeah, but she was elected to the Dáil 7 times. There's not many people who can do that anyway. Thanks, Tony.
Okay, Carol. Thanks again. We'll meet again, okay?
That's him. Bye.